Welcome to part 2 of the Careers for the Common Good pre-service orientation. In the previous part, we talked about a basic overview of the Careers for the Common Good program, but the biggest area for questions and for confusion is in how you enroll in the program. So that's what we'll talk about next. One of the most important things that must be done is to ensure you are eligible to participate. And we touched on this in the previous section, but now's a good time to reiterate it. You must be 17 years old. You must have a high school diploma or GED or agree to obtain one while serving, and you must be a U.S. citizen, U.S. national, or lawful permanent resident alien of the United States. You will need to provide documentation to your campus coordinator to verify these. Now what we'll do is I'll walk you through the steps of enrollment and probably go over them again at the end. The first step is to attend a pre-service orientation session or watch all 6 parts of the pre-service orientation video. Congratulations, you're already doing that. You'll either have to sign a sign-in sheet for in-person sessions or sign a form at the end of the 6th video of this series attesting that you completed the entire orientation. Also, you should be aware that participation in one of these orientation sessions counts as an hour of indirect service towards your service term. Now, after completing the pre-service orientation, you will need to complete and submit several items. These are the service contract, the AmeriCorps enrollment form, the service site agreement with pre-service reflections, the criminal background check authorization, and the member eligibility form, and a public publicity release. There's also an option to submit a form to place your student loans in forbearance while you are actively serving in AmeriCorps. All of these are available online. These forms must be completed and submitted to the CCG program office with original signatures within 30 days of your orientation session. The first document in your packet is the member contract. Now you should read the contract carefully as it explains all of the expectations of service. You will need to complete the entire member contract and sign it. You will then have your campus coordinator sign it as well. You'll note that there is a blank space for you to print your name on page 1. There's a second blank space for you to print the name of your college, and a third space for you to write the date your service term begins. This is a very important blank to fill out. In most cases, the date is the date of your pre-service orientation. However, if you take more than 30 days to submit a complete enrollment packet, you cannot use your orientation date. Instead, you will need to date this contract no earlier than 30 days prior to submission of your complete enrollment packet. In other words, the date is either the date of orientation or a date that is 30 days prior to submission of the packet, whichever is more recent. This is a critical point. You are not allowed to count any service hours performed before you complete a pre-service orientation, and you're also not allowed to count any service hours performed that took place more than 30 days before your enrollment paperwork is processed. You'll then have until July 31st, 2011 to complete your required 300 hours of service. Now in the contract there are a couple other blanks to fill out as well. There's space for you to write the name of your campus coordinator and the name of your site supervisor. Finally, you should sign it at the bottom of the last page. If you are under 18 years old, you'll need your parent or legal guardian to sign it too. Then you can return the contract or the rest of your completed enrollment packet to your campus coordinator. The next document you'll need to complete is the AmeriCorps enrollment form. This form is fairly straightforward, but it's the principal document by which CNCS can get your account set up. Everything on the document that has an asterisk is mandatory. This includes your name, social security number, and date of birth. It also includes your email address and at least a permanent mailing address, i.e. your home address, and a current mailing address, which is likely your campus mailing address if that's different. Some of the demographic questions are also mandatory. These include your attestation that you are either a U.S. citizen, U.S. national, or U.S. permanent resident, and have a high school diploma or GED or plan to obtain one before you complete your term. The other demographic questions, like gender, race, and ethnicity, and how you heard about AmeriCorps, are optional but highly recommended. Finally, there are a few other required questions to answer. The first is you must grant CNCS permission to release your name and contact information to the AmeriCorps Alumni Association. And the second is you must indicate if you've ever enrolled in AmeriCorps before, and if so, how many times. And the third is whether you've ever been released for cause from an AmeriCorps program. After you've answered these questions, sign the bottom of the third page and return it with the rest of your completed enrollment packet to your campus coordinator. The service site agreement provides a description for your planned service activities and serves as an agreement between you, your campus, and your service site. It will also provide the program with contact information for your site supervisor. You will need to complete the entire form. This includes a detailed summary of your planned service activities and the name of the service site. You should also fill in the contact information for your site supervisor. Then both you and your site supervisor should sign the second page. You must complete a service summary for each site at which you are serving. So if you are doing service at multiple sites, you will need to provide more than one of these documents. If your site supervisor changes, you'll also need to get the new site supervisor to sign a copy of your original document. You'll also need to do some reflection on what you expect from service. The pre-service reflection asks you to consider 3 questions about your service before you begin. What expectations do you have about serving in a high-need community organization? What anxieties do you have? What assumptions are you making about the clientele and your interaction with them? Second question is, how do you hope to further your professional and/or personal goals by participating in the Careers for the Common Good? And third, how do you intend to mobilize others, such as youth, college students, other adults, etc., to volunteer in support of your community in addition to your specified service? Please answer these questions honestly and completely. One-word or one-sentence answers are not sufficient, and that will delay your enrollment. The more deeply you consider these questions, the more powerful your experience in Careers for the Common Good will be. Every member must consent to a criminal background check, and that means you have to sign the authorization form. It is important that you provide any previous, maiden, or other names so that those other names can be checked and your background check can be completed swiftly. Kansas Campus Compact may also grant pre-approval to background checks conducted by campus departments as long as they have been completed within the past year and documentation is provided. So if this applies to you, be sure to talk to your campus coordinator and obtain a documentation of your prior background check to submit to Kansas Campus Compact. 2 searches will be conducted. One is performed by the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, and the other is using the National Sex Offender Registry. Individuals may not participate in any capacity within Careers for the Common Good if they are currently listed on the National Sex Offender Registry. All background checks will be maintained at the Kansas Campus Compact's office in your member file. If a hit comes up on a member's background check from KBI, the situation and the surrounding circumstances will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and a determination will be made by the program staff of Kansas Campus Compact on whether to allow a person to participate or not. Once the 2 checks have been completed and you've been approved, the program director will sign and date a criminal background verification form and include it in your member file. We've touched on this several times, but your citizenship eligibility is vital to participation in AmeriCorps. You must provide a copy of a birth certificate, passport, or other proof that you are either a U.S. citizen, U.S. national, or U.S. permanent resident to your campus coordinator. Here's a list of the documents that can be used to prove your eligibility so that you can be successfully enrolled. A photocopy of whichever document you use must be in your file before you can enroll in AmeriCorps. Now you'll note that a driver's license or social security card is not sufficient for the purpose of AmeriCorps. Most of our members use either a U.S. issued passport or their birth certificate to complete this requirement. Once you provide a copy of one of these documents to your campus coordinator, he or she will sign the bottom of the eligibility verification form. The last mandatory document you must fill out is the publicity release. This allows either AmeriCorps or Kansas Campus Compact to use your information in promotional and instructional materials. Please fill it out completely and sign it at the bottom. There's one additional document that's not in your packet and is optional. CNCS will place in forbearance a number of federal student loans while you are serving in AmeriCorps. So if you complete your service requirements, CNCS will then pay the interest accrued on those loans while you are actively serving. A form to complete this is available on your My AmeriCorps portal, which will explain how to access later in these videos. However, to repeat, the loan forbearance form is not required to enroll and is not included in your enrollment packet. Okay, so once you've filled out all this paperwork, you've signed it, you've gotten the signature of your site supervisor on the service side agreement, you've included a photocopy of your eligibility document, and provided all of that packet to your campus coordinator. What next? He or she will sign the documents as well and verify that you've turned in everything you need to provide. When that happens, you need to obtain 3 items from your campus coordinator: a member handbook, an AmeriCorps lapel pin, and an AmeriCorps window cling. Once that's done, your campus coordinator will provide your information to the Careers for the Common Good office. The program director will then conduct your criminal background. Once all your paperwork's in and we've conducted your background check and it's come back all clear, you will be enrolled in AmeriCorps and the Careers for the Common Good by the program director. When that happens, you'll get an email from the program director. It will provide the login information for you for the website where you're going to log your hours. You can see the website listed here, www.kscampuscompact.org. The email you get from the program director will also state the first date that you can record service hours, which will most likely be your orientation date, but possibly later if it took you more than 30 days to get all your paperwork in. The email will also mention that you should remind your site supervisor that he or she will need to approve your hours online, and that they should also be looking in their email for login information for the kscampuscompact.org website. That email will come from an address notifier@kscampuscompact.org. Some junk mail filters screen this email out, so you'll want to double check with your site supervisor and make sure they get it. If they don't, you won't be able to have your monthly timesheets approved, and that means you won't be able to accumulate the 300 hours you need to qualify for your education award. If you follow those steps carefully, you'll be enrolled without any hang-ups. If you need to review any of these steps, feel free to rewatch this video or talk to your campus coordinator. Remember, you cannot begin counting your hours until we have all of these documents, and there is a 30-day clock starting ticking from the day you complete this orientation. At this point, it's time to move on to Part 3, which will explain how you record your time and various other items related to your service.